Welcome to Adventures Gone Mad, your critical look at D&D books. My name is Kyle W., and I am here with my favoriteest co-host.
Hey, it's Kyle A. What's going on?
Hey, Kyle A. How are you doing today?
I am doing all right. Right before this podcast, I got a denial email for a raffle for a shoe. So I'm sneakerhead, basically, and I really like Jordans. And there's one that's coming out that everyone really loves. And what I really want to say is that sneakerheads are just nerds and they just don't know it. This is some of the nerdiest stuff that I now know about Jordans and shoes and sneakers. It's really funny. And if you talk to sneakerheads, they're like, I'm not a nerd. And all I could think of was like, you are such a nerd.
I will say, when you just talked about getting your rejection, my first thought was like, oh, are you applying for jobs? I didn't know that, but no, I guess you get emails on getting rejected for sneakers. So
yeah, so you sign up for a raffle to get a sneaker, and then you're chosen as to whether or not you get to buy that shoe or not. So they have now. It used to be sort of like a very, laissez-faire system, but now with the internet, it's all. You put your name in and you have to go through a website and they do all sorts of stuff. And, they want to assure that it's you, and they try to figure out whether or not you have multiple accounts and all this stuff. So there's all this trying to make sure that, the proper person gets this one particular shoe. It literally is so nerdy.
I don't trust this system. I suspect that there's corruption in this system, and Big Nike is selling raffles to the highest bidder.
Yeah, it's probably not that bad, but there's definitely lots of loopholes and ways that you can game the system. Like you can make multiple accounts and do all sorts of stuff. And there's lots of ways to sort of, there's this very interesting piece where people will sneak shoes out of stores so other people can buy them early, and then they'll sell them early. And so some release that's not supposed to happen for a month, suddenly they have that shoe that's not supposed to be released, and then it's worth way more. So there's this whole sort of underground system for it too. It's really crazy.
It kind of reminds me of Magic in a way, of having to know, when certain things are being sold and what's going to be a lot of money and what's not.
I mean, that's why I say it's totally a nerdy thing that people don't think they don't think they're nerds, but it is so like Magic or Pokemon or any of that stuff. It is a collectible card game.
It is funny coming from video games too, where I know people who put a bunch of time and effort into trying to get console releases when they come out, and the same, if not more effort is put into, I would like these Jordans, I want the ones that are blue.
Yes. Yep. And the really crazy thing is that it's two of the exact same shoe. It's a Jordan 5, and it's, a reimagined Jordan 5. They're exactly the same shoe, but this one has a colorway that's one of the ones that Jordan played in. So it's worth literally thousands of dollars more, but they're the same shoe on the inside.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you got rejected.
Yeah, it was it's not the end of the world, but it was oh.
Better luck next time.
It'll be fine, but yeah, thanks.
So Kyle, I know you unfortunately weren't able to attend because you had some stuff to deal with, but I went to the first OSR Con in Portland, Oregon.
How was that? I was upset I didn't get to go.
It was a lot of fun. I finally got to play a D&D First Edition, which is, considering I have a podcast about it, I should probably have played it. But so now I've played every edition of D&D, so that feels great. It was
good job.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was at Blackwater Bar, which is I'm just gonna say this is a very Portland place because it is a bar that only serves vegan food that is attached to Dark Future, which is we've talked about that game store on here before, but it is a retro OSR game store that sells older D&D books, and it's also attached to a record store that deals mostly in punk and metal music.
because of
So
course
this is
it
like a
does.
very Portland building to me. Like I love that place, but I'm like, man, this exists in Portland for sure. When
Yeah, it's very
I'm from
Portland.
Phoenix, I don't think
Keep
I
it
would
weird,
ever see
baby.
something like that in Phoenix. The first game that I did for AD&D First Edition, that was the Temple of the Trickster God, which was run by DM David. He has been working on his AD&D fantasy world for, I think he said he's been working on it since 1979. So it was kind of cool to
Dear Lord.
play with someone who has quite literally been working on his homebrew D&D world longer than I've been alive. But it was like, I like every version of D&D for its own thing, and even the controversial fourth version that people hate, I like for certain things. But I did enjoy how snappy and quick AD&D was. Like, the combat is just like roll, you're done. It's not it doesn't like drag on. It has the right amount of snappiness, I guess I will say.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And
You roll your dice, you hit or miss, you gun, go.
yeah,
keep
you do
going.
one thing. I do kind of enjoy the initiative system. Like, I like the idea of segments and like making decisions on what spells you do, but depending on how fast they are. I don't know if that's like a fiddly thing. It probably is because it was eventually dropped. But I guess I just I feel like initiative, where you just roll d20 and add your dex, and then you just keep it that entire battle, is like kind of boring and samey. And I like how this like mixes it up. My second game was I played. It was called Apes of Wrath, and it was an old school Essentials hack where the DM, his name was DM Wind, and he actually wrote. I'm gonna do some very good podcasting and show you the zine that I got from him. So I got 2 zines at this OSR con. So
Because it's Portland, and we.
I
need
mean, it made me
zines.
want to write a zine. I was like, man, zines are cool. But anyways, so he did the art and the layout for that zine. So Apes of Wrath is his. I think he worked with another person to do this, so I shouldn't say it's his thing. But he did the art and the layout. I know he said that. But essentially, it's like a Mad Max Wasteland hack of Old School Essentials. And Old School Essentials is an OSR game where it's like basically someone just republished basic D&D and like advanced, but basic D&D and advanced, but they kind of made it so people could actually buy it, and they kind of cleaned up rules a little bit. Like there's an alternate rule for ascending armor class instead of descending. But my favorite thing that happened in that game is someone rolled their car, and I was playing a fighter, and I got out of the car that was junked, and I took a potion of giant strength, and then I picked up the car wreckage and threw it at the person that was chasing us. And I was like, yeah, like role-play games are awesome.
Yep, that's the cool part.
Like cinematically, just a guy getting out of a car wreck, taking a potion and then picking up the car wreck and throwing it at someone is a very pleasing scene to me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And then it's AD&D, or it's D&D, so it's like, you rolled a hit, you missed. Oh.
Yeah, that is a thing too. There's a lot more missing, and I am definitely okay with that, but I know that would drive some people mad. Like all the missing that you do in basic D&D, especially at a lower level.
Yeah, well, even at higher levels, when it's like, okay, you hit. Okay, they're all dead. Okay, cool, I guess.
I will also say another thing I noticed, especially about the AD&D game that I played. I know people give Thaco like a bunch of crap, but I actually don't think it's that hard. I just made a table, and then I rolled, and then I compared the roll to my table, and I told the DM, I hit armor class 7. And then he went, okay, you hit. Like, it's that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Thaco is that bad. The old very first edition D&D, not the second edition stuff.
Obviously, like, it's fun to joke about it, but like it's just them telling you a number without having to put a ton of tables everywhere. I did like, as I was playing with it, because obviously like I've played with it before. I was like, yeah, this concept isn't that out there. Like it's pretty easy to just be like, I do the same thing in 5th edition. Like I go, I hit 20, and then they go, okay, that hits. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar. The when first edition D&D with the chart was really that was difficult. That was a pain in the ass.
I will say though, this made me want to play more Shadow Dark because I love that game. Okay, so now that we talked about sneakers and OSR Con, today today's a little different. We are, instead of going through an old D&D module, we are your critical look at D&D books, so we will still occasionally dip into like new stuff that comes out if we think it's relevant. So today is going to be a little different than what we normally do. We're not going to necessarily walk through the like module like we do with the older ones. We're just going to kind of like talk about what we read through Dragon Delves, and we're going to talk about like what we think about it, and kind of going to be a little bit of a different podcast today. Up front, before we start, I just want to thank anyone who's subscribed to subscribing to us on any of your podcatchers, subscribing to us on YouTube, subscribing to us on Spotify, whatever you use. That is really helpful, as well as leaving comments, leaving reviews on Apple Podcast really helps us reach people. We are kind of an independent labor of love, so we don't have like a marketing budget or something. So telling your friends about us is also incredibly helpful. Any sort of thing that gets eyes on us, like subscribing to us on YouTube would be helpful, and leaving comments on our YouTube channel and comments on our, on Spotify as well.
Yeah, apparently we need more engagement.
And Kyle, I just wanted to read to you one of our comments from our last podcast, The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. This comment's from Spotify, and it's from DMAT, who says, I remember my halfling thief getting killed in this one when I was like 10 or 11 years old. A couple years later, I ran it myself as a DM, an all-timer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we love hearing about your dead characters. So please.
Yeah, nothing better than a dead halfling, right?
Yeah, as I read these modules, I really do love to hear about like any experiences people have, and I could definitely see like the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh being an all-timer and a thing that people remember, because that was a pretty special adventure.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, some other bookkeeping up front related to the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. For our next 2 modules, we will be reading the module number 2 and module number 3 in that series. So the next podcast we do will be The Danger at Dunwater, followed by The Final Enemy. So we'll finish out the Secret of Saltmarsh.
Yeah, I think we both felt like that was a really strong module, and we would really like to continue it and read the rest of it and see what happens. It seems like it makes a lot of sense to us.
Yeah, and that one, it's just nice to see. I really enjoyed seeing what like the UK TSR was doing, because they have like different, like they use different language and stuff too, but they have like different ideas than the TSR of, I was going to say of the West, because I'm used to talking about video games, the TSR of the United States.
Yeah, it's a nice take on it. I always thought the same thing about Fiend Folio, is that, Fiend Folio was mostly a UK invention, and the monsters in there and some of the some of the monster things you would create, I thought were fairly unique and different.
And also up front regarding our upload schedule, so we were kind of roughly trying to do a bi-weekly thing, but just how long this ends up taking for us to go through the module, take notes, sometimes like watch interviews and things like that, and read the module, record, and then edit it. It actually takes a lot longer than we expected. So what we're kind of doing is that we are switching to a kind of when it's done format. So basically, when we finish an episode and we do the editing, I will upload it on whatever the next Tuesday is going to be. So Tuesday is going to be our day for uploading. So yeah, just look for, just subscribe to us on any podcatcher, and it'll just automatically download on Tuesdays.
Yeah, we have things like life happening too, that is taking a lot of time away from podcasting. So.
Yeah, and you would be surprised how long it takes to not only like read all this stuff and take notes, but record 5 hours of podcast material and edit it down. It takes a surprising amount of time.
Yeah, you do most of that work, so I'm very happy that you do it, and I think you do a great job. But yeah, it is a lot of work.
It's a labor of love. So today we are going through Dragon Delves, the latest release from 5th edition D&D. Just as a note up front as well, the copies that Kyle and I are both using are ones that we bought personally. We were not given review copies or anything like that for Wizards of the Coast.
And as a point of contention, I bought the alternate cover and Kyle bought the regular cover. So just as,
Yeah.
so have some flavor there for
Yeah,
covers.
well, I'm required to buy the regular cover. I can't buy the alternate cover.
Correct, because all of your books have to match.
Yeah, so the problem is when you have them all on your shelf, if you get the alternate cover, which, don't get me wrong, I like the alternate covers for pretty much every book that they've done. If you get the alternate cover, then they don't look right together. Whereas if I get the regular cover on everything, they will always look right together. So I'm required to get the regular one, Kyle.
Yeah, you don't have any choice. There's no way. There's no choice in that matter. You have to do that. I do not care, so I just buy the one that I think is the coolest, and if it's available.
Wow, I wish I had that chaotic freedom that I could experience, but I can't, Kyle. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, if you're looking into my office right now, what you are doing, there's a lot of chaos around, so, hey.
So, yes, I guess I'm the lawful one. I speak the lawful alignment language.
Yeah, I may be either neutral or chaotic.
So anyways, yes, the alternate covers, just starting with that, I think the cover art of Dragon Delves is really great.
Yeah, both are really good.
We're definitely going to be talking about the art a little bit more, but normally I will ask for like a synopsis. So I can't really ask you for a synopsis because there's 10 adventures, and the synopsis is dragons.
Yeah, pretty much it's just all about dragons and different colors of dragons.
Yeah, so to kind of, if you don't know anything about this book, to kind of like explain it to you a little bit, the design intent of this book is not, it's not to be, oh, we're doing a Dragon Delves campaign. Although you can do that, the DM you'd have to do a lot of work to like tie everything together. The intent of these is to be 1 or 2 shot things that you might do between story arcs, or you might just do an individual thing, or for your game you might be like, you know what, I'm bored, I want to just run something else for a game or two. Like that's the design intent of these adventures.
Yeah, I think even the first adventures you could run is like, okay, I just want to start my campaign with this thing. But the campaign is not going to be focused on the next chapter.
Right, they're all self-contained. If you wanted to make them not self-contained, that would be work that you would have to do as a DM.
Yeah, you'd have to figure out how you want to do that.
It also ranges from level 1 to 12, so there's a pretty decent amount of leveled adventures in here.
But I think I think a bunch of them are 12, or 2 of them are 12 or something like that, and then
yeah, 2 of them are 12.
They're sort of scattered all over the place. So you'd have to have adventures in between, or you think you'd have to have adventures in between to sort of level up to that whatever one you wanted to do. And I don't think really that's the intent. So
just to go through the adventures, it's level 1, level 3, level 4, level 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. So my first thing that I do want to say about this book, and I have talked to you about this a little bit, Kyle, this is like one of my, I have like a note card of like negatives and positives. The name of this is really bad.
Yeah, we both don't like it.
Dragon Delves, the reason that Dragon Delves is not a good name, and my evidence for this is when I was doing research on this and hearing people talk about it, people constantly call this Dungeon Delves, which is not the name of which is not its name.
Yeah, even when I was saving, the track for this podcast, I typed Dungeon Delves. So yeah, it sounds so much better than Dragon Delves.
Yeah, so it's called a Dragon Delves because every single one of the adventures is about a different dragon, like a different colored dragon.
Yeah, and we've had there's a lot of content that Wizards has put out for dragons. So, yeah, I guess we can talk about that.
And it makes sense because dragons are popular and it is in the title of the game.
Yeah, we definitely like dragons. So, Kyle, what did you like about Dragon Delves that I almost said Dungeon Delves?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. That's my point right there. There's many things I do like about this. I do enjoy that there are adventures that fit anywhere. Like, they're very general. Like, at the beginning of the adventure, it will tell you how to fit it in. It'll say, like, this adventure can happen anywhere in a mountain. So it's, like, very general. Like, I like how adaptable it is to being put in anything, any setting, any game that you're running. I do also, the thing that I would say that is very new about this, I've read most 5th edition adventures. I've read a bunch of random adventures, like not even for this podcast. I just love reading adventures, which is why I have this podcast. I'm hosting this podcast. But
Right.
I think one of the things that I really like that they added in this is there is a page at the beginning of each adventure that tells the DM how to prep, which is, I'm surprised that it's taken this long for games to do that.
Yeah, I literally was going to say exactly the same thing. Like, one of the things that I really loved about it is that it does a really good job of setup.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at, on page 105, the name of the adventure is The Forbidden Veil, just the one I picked randomly when I opened the book. So the way that the prep is set out is it says key plot points. So it has like 2 little small paragraphs that are like the synopsis of the adventure. And then it says how to prepare. It gives you steps. So it says like, hey, read the background and then make yourself familiar with these NPCs and then bookmark in the monster manual or or on D&D Beyond, and it has a list of every single creature that it uses in this adventure, like right in one place. And then there's a table of all of the NPCs, their name, their role, their stat block, and the location.
I think the setup for each one of these encounters, whatever you want to call them, scenarios, is excellent. Like, it's really, really well done. And as a DM, I feel like, okay, yeah, this is easy to get everything set up and be able to run.
Right, and if I was doing something like this in future adventures, they can also include. They don't need to include the rules, but they could be like, "Hey, by the way, this adventure has a lot of underwater stuff, so you might want to familiarize yourself with the underwater rules in the DMG." Like, just things like that are very helpful, because I know that when I ran. There's some 5th edition stuff when I ran that I didn't, until like halfway through, I was like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that. That I should have done this at the beginning, and it would have been nice if the book prepped me for that.
Right.
And so I really like that they're forward thinking, and I'm coming from this from a perspective of someone who DMs a lot, so I have my own method of preparing and I know what to do. But like, if you just picked up this book and you're like, DM, getting people to DM is very hard. So I like that it included that. What is something else that you liked about this?
So, I'll just the layout of all the art. Well, I wouldn't say the layout. I would say like each one of the adventures has its own artist. Yeah. So they created art for each one of the adventures in there, which I thought was really cool. Each one has its own sort of flavor because an artist has drawn all the little pieces of it. I mean, I don't mean that there's like, just with the layout of the book, the way it works is that there's a history of whatever dragon it is. So like the very first one is green dragons. So there's a history of green dragons and there's a bunch of pictures in there, and we'll talk about those in a second. But then after that is the actual adventure. And then the actual adventure is the art from that artist. And so that artist it's unique for each one of the modules. Mm-hmm. So in the module block, not the part about the history of that dragon, there's unique art for each one of the adventures. And I think that's really cool. Like, I really like that there's a flavor for each one of the modules in terms of the art. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really clever idea. Rather than just having sporadic artists throughout the whole book, you have a concentrated, you got an artist to do, they obviously read all of it, looked at stuff and said, okay, this is what I want to draw. They probably got input from people like, these are things we really need for you to draw. So, Yeah, and they specific that one specific artist did all those things, and each one has a different flavor. And I thought that was really unique and worth seeing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that for sure. I do enjoy, and when you say it's like different artists, it's like also, it's not like these artists, it's not like they had like a cohesive like, hey, this is the way everything looks. Like, I know that you're all different, but we're gonna stay to like this thing. Like, no, it's a completely different art style. Like, one of them is like a super cartoony looking thing. Another one is like really realistic looking line art. Like, it's just completely all over the place, and I do like that a lot too.
Yeah, each one of the styles is different. Like, they not only is a different artist, it's a different style of art, it's a different look. And I think that's a really strong thing to do, and makes me go like, oh, okay, maybe this is worth picking up just because the art is so well done.
Yeah, I do really like the idea of, I mean, it's obviously like art is really important to a module because it sets the tone, right? Like when I read through White Plume Mountain and I see like crazy giant crab art, that sets the tone for the adventure for me. In each one of these, it kind of sets the tone of the adventure. I kind of hope it's a thing that they continue doing instead of just doing like, I mean, I really like the art in 5th edition generally, but I kind of hope that they kind of keep using the art this way. It makes sense because it's a bunch of different modules, but like I like that.
And I will say to audience, think about, I've talked about that, but there's a piece of the art that I really have an issue with, that both of us have an issue with. So I just want to put a little pin in that, because we like saying that in conversation now. Just put a pin in that this is the art that I really like, and there's some stuff that I really disagree
right.
with.
What is it that you disagree with? We could just talk about it now.
So the way it works in each one of these is that there's a history of each type of dragon. So there's history of green dragons, history of brass dragons, history. So unfortunately, they don't actually talk about the history of them from the standpoint of like any kind of mythological piece, or even from the kind of the D&D piece, or how they got created or any of that. They do a little bit of that, but it's more, they just rehash the same art that we've seen in every single book that they've had out. I think there's like, so looking at the Green Dragon one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different pieces of art, and only one of them is unique. Only one of them is new to the book. All of it is just rehashed art from other books. So and that is, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages in here.
Yeah, so it's about 100. The book itself is about 125 pages, and there's 31 pages of art, of the art that we're talking about. I'm not counting like the original art with the original art styles that were made for this. Like, just to give you an example, I'll just I'll just pull one up really quick. So I'm looking at the history of silver dragons. There's only 3 paragraphs here that says, for all the many changes in the look of dragons over the years, the silver dragon's distinctive crest is visible in every incarnation. Cool. That's cool info. I like reading that.
Yeah, that's great.
And then it has art from the 2009 Eberron campaign guide by the artist Chippy, which I do like that they credit the artist and they give you the date. It has Monster Manual from 1993, Monster Manual from 1977. It has art from the Dragonomicon from 2003. It has art from the Magic the Gathering set from 2022. The 2014 Monster Manual, 2009 Monster Manual, and some concept art. And it kind of like just reprints art like you would in an art book. And it makes this extremely cost ineffective, because you're paying for a bunch of art that you're not going to use. You're going to flip through those pages.
Yeah, it feels like they're saving money, but we're not getting value out of it. So, and I wouldn't mind if they had a couple of pictures, especially some of the original art, to say like, hey, this is where we started and this is where we've gotten to. And I think that's sort of the intention. But it's like you could do that in a page or even 2 pages, but not 5.
Yeah.
And we don't have any, like, the title of that piece is History of whatever dragon it is. So Green Dragons is the first one. There's no real history there. There's just pictures of the history of them. So, like, well, what was the design philosophy? Like the intro part where we talked about Silver Dragons, there's like this sort of design piece that's there. And it's like, well, at least talk about that more. Like, talk about how that is or something. Give me some meat, rather than just rehashing all this old art that, some of it I haven't seen before, but I'm not that excited about because it's already been published.
Yeah, most of it I have seen before. What I would want to see from this is like, here is the first silver dragon that Dave Arneson drew in his notebook, like something like that. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, and then this is where we evolved to, and this is with the design philosophy from, this is why we designed them like this, and then even talking about some of the abilities too, like. Don't you want to sort of say, like, well, why is this dragon like this? Why did we decide that this dragon should be like this? Like a brass dragon, like, why does a brass dragon breathe the breath weapon it does? And like give me something.
Yeah, so it makes it really cost ineffective. My theory, it's kind of a cynical theory, but I'm gonna share it anyways. I had a previous job in publishing for a little bit, and hardcover books make way more money than softcover books because of how much you could sell them for. So my guess is that it was to pad this out because it's decently short, to add 31 pages so that they could have justification to make it a hardcover book and make more money on it. So unfortunately, it makes this a really cost-ineffective book because you can buy, if you just want to do one-shots, I do this all the time. You could get 5th edition Adventurers League one-shots for like $2 on DM's Guild. So this is a really cost-effective book.
Yeah. I mean, and to go back to some of the good things, it's like, I think some of the adventures are really solid. Like, they're super fun. Not all of them. There's obviously ones that are stronger than the others. And they're easy to, put into your campaign as a kind of a nice one-shot fun thing to do that would, can go with all your adventures. I think all of that's really strong. But like you said, I could pay $2 and get an adventure to do that off Adventures League. So it's like, why am I paying, I don't even remember how much, like $60 or whatever it was. I don't know. It was a lot of money for this.
On the back, at least on the back, $50 US is what the MSRP is listed as.
Yeah, so it's like, well, am I paying $50 for this, for art that I've already seen before, and nothing that's like super unique.
It's like 30 pages of filler. So I like this book. I would recommend the adventures, but I don't know if I would say this book is worth $50.
Like if you're getting it on like discount on D&D Beyond, I think it's worth it. Like that's worth it. Because you get the adventures and you can see the art and it's kind of cool, but, or, you get on this off of Amazon or I don't know, I probably should plug Amazon, but, if you're getting it somewhere and you can get it on discount, I think it's probably worth it, but, paying $50 for it seems a little excessive.
Yeah. And I wonder, I don't know if like Roll20 in some of these modules, you can get like just a single adventure. So like I would look into that if you wanted to run one of these, just get like the adventure for the level. I kind of wish, like I don't mind art books, like I kind of like having them, but it feels like all of those would have been better for an art book, and I would have liked to see all that art for dragons in like they could have released a dragon art book with all of that art, and like I would have loved to see like interviews from artists that talk about drawing dragons and like what are some of those the old TSR artists, like what were their first dragon arts like why did they decide to draw dragons the way that they did? Like I'd love to see that, but unfortunately we get like 31 pages of filler art in this. Like I don't care what the D&D Magic card looks like. I could go look that up on Scryfall if I want.
Yeah, I mean that was the set of Magic that I was the most excited about when I started getting back into Magic, so I bought all those cards. So I have them. I even have those cards. It's like, I've seen this. And I know there's people that haven't, but it's pretty easy to go look up that art on the internet. Whereas, this stuff is like, the stuff that's in between there, the art that's in the actual modules, like that's super fun. to me. Like that's like, oh, that's what I'm paying for. That's what I want to pay for.
Right.
Is this unique art that is, that's there. And then on top of that, we should say like some of these adventures are super fun. Like, the first one I'm not that into, but the second one with the gold dragon is probably my favorite one. And I really love that one. Like, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's a good adventure, and it's unique, and it's fun, and people are gonna be gassed over
Yeah,
it.
I think that's a good adventure. I'm just looking. It's the one we're talking about is chapter 2 on page 29 called Baker's Doesn't. And we're not going to obviously go through it just because we want players as well as DMs to listen to this. But the thing that makes this one unique is it has really cartoony art.
Yeah. I don't remember the artist's let's see, the artist's name.
I think it'll be in the front, right? Yeah, that's weird because in the new D&D they've been crediting artists a lot better.
Yeah, that's pathetic.
Is it in the back?
No, it's not.
Well, unfortunately, it's one of the artists in the front. So
yeah, we have to. So in order to figure out which artist did what, we have to go through the entire list of artists, and it's a giant paragraph of artists. Like, it's a lot of artists. So I want to credit that artist for, and I've seen he's done Magic the Gathering cards. I see, there's a lot of art that he's done, or she. Actually, I have no idea. It could be a they. I don't know. And it's a really unique art style. It's very cartoonish, and it works really well. And to me, it's like, well, that I feel like that chapter stands out, and that's one that's really neat. It's for second level characters, so it's an easy one to run. It'd be a fun one to sort of plug somewhere. And I think for experienced people, like people who have played the game a lot and know the game, this would be a nice, refreshing second level adventure to do that they would really enjoy.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I remember just normally the way that I read a D&D book is I look at it and then I flip through the pages and look at the art to get kind of like the vibe of what the art looks like. And what that usually does is I have this thing in my brain where I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to get to that page and figure out what the context of that is. And I just remember flipping through this and seeing that like weird for D&D weird cartoony art and being like, I wonder what this is. And the adventure kind of matches the art as well. It's like very fairy tale.
Yeah, and initially I didn't think I was going to like it because it's like, oh, this is going to be a cartoon thing. This is going to be dumb. But it's really quite fun.
I'll call out my personal favorite. Let me find it. So my personal favorite is the Forbidden Veil, page 105. It's a red dragon. It's about a red dragon. Each adventure is about a different color of dragon. I just really, the line art that they use in this is really cool, and they draw the maps differently too. And I just really like, though, there's like on page 113 there's like a ziggurat looking thing, and I just love the way that it's drawn.
Yeah, and that one is very strong too. Like, that's probably my second favorite. It's also the longest one, so it feels like you get into a lot of meat with that one. You feel like there's a lot going on there. There's more history and stuff. Like, it's hard to get too delved into it, but it feels like there's some actual meat in this module because it's the longest, and they do a good job on that, showing all of that. So yeah, I enjoyed that one. That's probably my second favorite.
I do think one thing that this adventure kind of, well, not that adventure specifically, but this book struggles with, and it is a problem with the D&D in general, is that it is hard to include dragons in games with like lower level characters, and the way that D&D usually does it is they have like young dragons, but like right. I felt like some of these adventures were really straining around that constraint.
Yeah.
And I know for me it's like I don't really think fighting a baby dragon is that interesting, so hopefully other people do, but I think that constraint you could definitely see is throughout this book.
Yeah, for sure. Especially the first couple of them are hard to deal with. Like, they have to come up with an invention. And like, I think the Gold Dragon one is an example of one where I feel like it's strong. And then there's a chapter 4 In chapter 4, that's the one with I think it's the brass dragon. Yeah, it's the brass dragon. So the one with the brass dragon, there's like sort of a unique twist on there that's sort of really fun. We obviously can't spoil it, but that's another really good one to me in terms of the early.
Yeah, I think if they do another theme book like this, I think that the theme should be like a little bit more abstracted. Like, obviously, I'm not working, like, I don't work for Wizards of the Coast or anything, but if I had to pick, like, I would want the constraint to be something like every single book in this is an adventure that has to do with a key, or it has to do with a ship or something like that. Like a little more, it allow people to like work around that context instead of forcing it. Like some of these just felt like, oh, they're forcing a dragon into this. Like,
right. Well, I mean, I'm going to, so the to go on the positive, I think that's one of the things that I really have a problem with in the later adventures is literally the last 4 chapters are the same adventure. And they feel like they're the same thing, and they're not bad, but it kind of like if you're inserting any one of those, they're all the same thing. They're all the sort of the same deal. And, there's not much difference in them. There's a little bit, but not a lot. And, they feel rushed, in my opinion. I think, they're the least, they had the least amount of pages to me, and they just felt like they weren't trying to be that creative. It was just like, dragon lives here, go there, deal with dragon.
There's nothing like, I really like reading Dungeon Crawl Classics modules. I think that they have some of the best writing in like current RPGs. And every time, and one of the reasons I say that is because every time I read a Dungeon Crawl Classic module, I'm like, oh, this is like weird and new. But I didn't feel like there was some really cool like settings in this. Like, for instance, one of them takes place in a redwood forest, which I don't think I've ever seen in a D&D game, which is like a really cool concept. But I never read any of this and I was like, oh, this is like unique and novel. And I don't think this is trying to do that. I think it's trying to be very like general one shot thing. But
right.
It does feel like, every adventure is kind of like, go to this place with a dragon, deal with it.
Yeah, and it is not to say that like those are bad things. Sometimes that's really, if you're thinking about it and you're in a long campaign and you're the DM and you're just tired and you just want to go do a thing.
That's
it's really easy just to say like, okay, well, there's a black dragon, you got to go deal with it or whatever. It's just not. I don't have to sit there and try to like figure it all out. So I mean, that's what's really nice about these adventures is that like you're tired.
Yeah,
you've been working all day, and now you got to run a D&D thing, and you haven't really prepped for anything, and you're just like, you know what, you got to go deal with the black dragon.
That's the subtitle of this book. Dragon Delves, you're tired. We know you're tired. We at Wizards of the Coast know you're tired. Here's some really easy adventures that are very simple that you could run. Like I kind of expected when I was opening this book, I was like, oh, there's going to be like an adventure where there's a black dragon masquerading as a human in the king's court, and you have to figure out who it is. Nothing's like that. It's like,
yeah, none of it's like that.
Go fight the dragon or go deal with it. So that I guess is a kind of a double-edged sword. It's like a positive or a negative. Like I wouldn't pick this book up to get a novel new adventure idea that I've never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to. I think that actually, in terms of like, hey, we got to go deal with the dragon. Each one of those adventures are pretty strong. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think they're well written. There's enough in there to keep your players busy for a little while. I think it'll be an enjoyable experience for everybody. It's just that it is a little like, well, we're not looking, don't buy this thinking like there's something unique in here. It's not. The first adventures I think are unique, and I think it's because they have that constraint. Mm-hmm. So one of the pieces is that they have to be a little bit more creative because dragons are tough and powerful, and they can murder your whole party in 2 seconds. So we have to sort of put constraints around that. So they have to try to be creative. I think In some ways they are. They do a good job of that. In other ways they don't. In those early adventures. But then at the end of these, it's just like, okay, well, your 12th level, go deal with this dragon. And then maybe you kill it and maybe you don't kill it. And they do a good job of like, okay, here's some possible ways in which this could go down, and they do a good job of all that and coming up with all of that stuff. And I think that they do a good job with that, but it is, in the end of the day, it is go deal with dragon.
I will say, I do think the first adventure in here, the level 1 that takes place in a redwood forest, I actually think that's like a really cool way you could start a campaign, to just do that adventure and then like figure out your own thing and then insert dragon adventures whenever you don't have time to prep.
I'm literally thinking that's going to be one of my first adventures that I run for people.
Yeah, it's quite, I think it's a pretty good like starting adventure. It just feels like the setting for me, like being in a redwood forest, it feels like very like, and the history that it has for it is really interesting, and you could pull a lot from that to start out your campaign. Yeah. But like I do think the first adventure is a pretty good start to a level 1 campaign. Like it is written that way too, because if you look at Lost Mines of Phandelver, the way it's written is like, here is a big town and you can walk around and talk to a bunch of people. And this adventure is kind of like written like that in a way, because they know it might be a starter adventure.
Yeah, and the funny part is I don't think the first adventure, the first chapter, and the second chapter really go well together. Like I don't think you should do that and then do the second one. I don't think that actually works really well. Like you do the first level, the first chapter 1 adventure, and you do that, and then you do this, and you could absolutely, but I don't think that given what happens in that first adventure, I don't really want to run that as my second adventure with the Gold Dragon.
Yeah, I will also say, like, caveat, I will say up front, and this might color my review of this. I'm not really a dragon person. Like, I don't get excited by dragons. I don't put them in my games that often. I'm not a dragon person, so maybe if you were a dragon person, you would resonate with this book a little more.
Well, I'm definitely a dragon person, and I between elves and dragons, those are my things. So,
okay, so you like the first adventure then?
Yeah, I love that first adventure, and I also set in the redwood forest. I lived in the redwood forest for 21 years, so and I cut down a number of redwoods, so.
With your bare hands.
Well, okay, no, not with my bare hands, but I told people to go cut down trees because my dad's a forester. So I've seen big redwoods and big trees fall, to be cut up for lumber, which I'm sure makes me a monster. But anyway, I think that's really cool, and I really like the dragon thing. But I have a lot of gripes with this book. It's not bad. I don't regret my purchase.
Yeah. I will say that as well. I mean, first of all, I basically collect D&D stuff, so like I'm probably not the right person to talk about this, because I don't regret my purchase either. But it is my only warning is that I think it's very cost ineffective as far as like adding content to your game. No, it definitely.
I would absolutely agree.
Don't, like, for instance, so there's a couple other adventures that are books that Wizards of the Coast has done for 5th edition. 2 that come to mind are Tales of the Yawning Portal and Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which are like adventure compilations. And even though Yawning Portal is like not as coherently linked together as Ghosts of Saltmarsh, because Ghosts of Saltmarsh is like everything around the Saltmarsh area that has to do with like boats and stuff. You could still do a Tales of the Yawning Portal campaign. Like you could thematically link them together much easier than you could link this together. Like you're not going to buy a Dragon Delves book and say like, oh, we're doing a Dragon Delves campaign. Like I don't think it's built that way.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. It doesn't work. At least I don't think it works well. Or you're gonna be jumping through a lot of hoops.
So yeah,
you got work cut out for
don't
you.
buy this book with that in your mind that you're gonna do a Dragon Delves campaign. It's not written that way.
If you love dragons, you don't mind that you see a bunch of rehashed art,
and you want small adventures that are like, you could probably do most of these in 1 or 2 sessions.
Yeah, for sure.
And another thing is that because they could fit anywhere, it's like pretty easy to put them in your campaign.
And they're unique. They're unique enough that they're fun and you'd enjoy them. But yeah, like I don't regret my purchase, but I have issues.
There's some tropes I don't like in here that I can't really get into without spoiling, but it's just like, I think some of the setups for the adventures could be a little better.
Well, definitely some of these adventures are stronger than others. for sure.
Yes,
And I think it's whoever buys this book and wants to run these, you need to read all of them and find the ones that you think will work for whatever you're doing, because there might be some adventures that are going to be really strong in whatever's going on in your campaign, and you're tired or whatever, and you just want to insert one of these in there. Some of them are going to be stronger for your campaign than others, and are going to fit better than others, while others are going to be like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I shouldn't be using this.
Yeah, and you could look at the prep, like, if you don't know if you want to run the adventure, you could look at the prep page and it will tell you what monsters are in it. And you could be like, oh, interesting, why is this monster in this book, in this adventure? And then you could kind of figure it out from there. And some of them are more dungeon delvy, and then it's like a dungeon you go into with rooms that you could, walk through, and some of it's more like a little bit of a hex crawl and then an adventure site, but they're generally like, it kind of reminds me of Adventurers League in a way. Like, a lot of Adventurers League is written to be done in 4 hours, and it's usually a setup and then like 3 or 4 encounters, and you're done. It reminds me of that. So if this interests you at all, I would recommend looking at like some Adventurers League adventures. There's a few of them that are quite good.
Yeah, I think if you have a lot of money and you want to just buy all the art and stuff, because that's really cool, that's great, and go for it. But I think if you actually want module, things that you could just sort of set up in your campaigns, probably the Adventures League modules are going to be a much stronger place, dollar per dollar, so to speak.
I would say this is it's a pretty useful book, but it's not. I wouldn't necessarily call it like a meaty. I don't look at this like I look at Curse of Strahd and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a ton of ways this could go. There's a lot of meat in this. There's a lot of possibilities of play.
Yeah, and I also, you touched on it before, but I think it's important to note that you really need to have all the other stuff. So you need to have Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual in order to run this, because the modules that we've been reading, the old school ones, they have the AC of the monster and the hit points, all that stuff. These don't have any of that. There's none of that stuff in there. You have to, figure all that out from the Dungeon Master's Guide, what each creature has, what each NPC has, and all that stuff, and you're going to keep track of that, not as a part of this module, but as a separate piece. That was actually an interesting departure for me, that it's like, oh, wait, yeah, they don't give you any of that information. You have to have it.
Yeah, and I guess another thing that does take away, like, there's not... So it'll be like, you run into the young blue dragon, and its name is this, and it will use the young blue dragon stats. There's no... Like, you're not going to look at this and be like, oh, that's a special dragon with special things, like that some adventures do.
Right.
Which, they could have put that stuff in the art page. It got rid of the art pages. Like, they had a space to do it. They just decided not to do that. Like, that's a decision that they purposely made.
Yeah, it's a hard one, because on some level I understand it, and I also, there's a part of me that gets irritated that it's like, oh, well, I have to have the Dungeon Master's Guide in order to have this, just to play this. I have to have the Monster Manual. Who have bought those products in order for me to play this. But I'm also like, why wouldn't you have bought the Monster Manual and the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide if you're DMing a campaign?
Right, so. And it does specifically call that out, and it calls D&D. It says to either have them on D&D Beyond, which I guess you could like microtransaction. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but or have them on the Monster Manual. So that is a departure. I don't know, because this is the first D&D 2024. God, I hate that name. D&D 5.5 module. We don't know if that's like a permanent departure for how they're going to do their adventure modules. They haven't released a full one yet. We'll see in the future how that goes. I think the next adventure thing that they're doing is the starter set, the one with the Keep on the Borderlands continuation. So we'll see, I guess, how that one goes. One thing that I noticed about the writing, and I think it probably is to help like newer DMs, is there are multiple parts of the adventure where it'll be like, if you talk to this, it'll be like talking to this person. So you talk to this NPC, and then it just lists like 5 or 6 things that the players might, like questions the players might ask them and what they're going to say if they do that. So you could like paraphrase it, or you could use the exact thing that they're going to say, or you would know like, oh, this character, if you ask them about this person, they're going to tell them that they know that person's brother. Like, I think that's actually kind of helpful.
Yeah, I would say that's a strong piece in the writing, is that they sort of say this person knows about this stuff. So if asked about anything that's sort of adjacent to it, you probably will mention that, or they will probably mention whatever that
I know
is.
when I started DMing games, I had a lot of, like, the combat stuff was really easy for me to learn just because, like, you know, I played Magic and I was, like, really good at, like, rule stuff. But the problem that I had, I was like, oh my God, let's just do combat and don't talk to a character because I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
So that's like really helpful for new DMs to have that like listed out. Like, oh, hey, they asked like you know, the quest is to pick up this amulet and they asked about the amulet. This is what they say about that. Like, I actually kind of like the way that's written out.
Yeah, it's interesting in the evolution of these products and these games. You know, this has been reading stuff from way back when, is that, you know, some of the social stuff has become more to the forefront than the actual combat, or some maze or some clever combat piece or something like that you're supposed to figure out. That the social interaction piece becomes more the forefront and is more interesting sometimes than, you know, you going into combat. You know, and a little bit of, not necessarily spoiler, but obviously you don't have to kill all the dragons. So there's a lot of, hey, you know, you want to interact with this dragon. If you don't want to kill it, you don't have to. You know, there's no reason for you to actually kill it, or, you know, you just need to like do something and then based on the interaction. So like you could have these social interactions not only with the townsfolk, and they can give you clues as to what you're supposed to do, and then, you know, you can go ahead and just negotiate with the dragon or talk to it. Even the evil dragons, you don't necessarily have to kill them all. So I think that, and they outline a lot of that in the adventures. Yeah. So I think that's actually really
and at
strong.
The end, it also says like, hey, if a lot of the ways the adventure ends, it'll just have like 4 different scenarios of like, if this happens, if you get here and this survives, if you get here and this person dies, like it kind of tells you. So that's like a nice way to make it easier to run these adventures, because I think these are like,
yeah,
as far as these adventures go, they are, I don't think simple. I don't mean that they're simple in like a bad way, but they are definitely like one of the easier things to run. Like, I think these are easier to run than the D&D starter set adventure.
Agreed. I would agree with that.
Like, I really like Lost Mines of Phandelver, but like someone that was really, really new, I would rather them do the first adventure in this book than Lost Mines of Phandelver, because that's like a kind of a lot to start with, and this is a lot easier to focus on, and it helps you prep.
Well, even the start here, I think, is better than Phandelver. Like, oh well, someone's hired you to go be a mercenary. It's like, what? Like, why? What's going on? Whereas, like, here you have a little bit more of a there's more of a compassionate turn for it. I don't want to get too into it, but yeah, I think it's a stronger sort of start.
Okay, so Kyle, kind of wrapping things up here, because we talked for a little bit on this. What is your final thought on Dragon Delves?
I think that you have the money to buy it, and money is no issue. You should just buy it and look at the art and go, that's cool, and then read the adventures and go, that's cool. But yeah, I'm not disappointed, but I'm not enthralled. I think I'm sort of mediocre on it.
I agree.
And what is your final thoughts on Dungeon/Dragon Delves?
I agree. I will say my biggest gripe against this is it's very cost ineffective, so I have a hard time recommending it based on that. But if you don't care about a D&D book being a normal price, I think $50 is like a pretty standard price now for a D&D book. And you want to have some stuff on your shelf to just pull out anytime and be able to use it. You don't necessarily, even for prepping this, you don't need to even read the adventure as close as you would another module. So if you just want to have like that ammunition on your shelf you could pull off and use at any time, definitely not a bad idea to get this. But I just do want to point out to anyone that wants to get it, it's very cost ineffective as far as what you get for what you pay for. And it does not lead itself to being used exclusively for a campaign. So I just keep that in mind. I do think it might be worth getting, though, to have that ammunition to fire off these modules at whatever you need to. So that's it for Dragon Delves. Please join us next session where we go over the adventure module Danger at Dunwater, Part 2 of The Secret of Saltmarsh. Make sure to follow us on your podcast app of choice and follow us on Blue Sky at adventuresgonemad.bsky.social. Are you enjoying Adventures Gone Mad? If so, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. What did you think of Dragon Delves? We want to hear about it. Contact us at adventuresgonemad@gmail.com and join us next time for Danger at Dunwater.
No, I'm talking to myself.
Oh, okay.
Where you looked it up on a chart was always just like, oh, it was just, oh God, dog. Hold on.
She's mad. Someone walked by. How dare they?
I think it's okay.
But basically, just thought